My name is Marcus Foster. I'm 26 years old, and the last time I treated my sister well was at her 18th birthday party. That was the night her arrogance cost her everything. I had always been the responsible one in the family. I worked hard, built a stable life, and stayed independent early on. I even found the woman I wanted to marry. For years, I quietly made sure my little sister had what she needed to focus on school and enjoy the same things her friends had. She never knew the full extent of my support. To her, it was simply a large monthly allowance that appeared reliably. That afternoon, the backyard of our family home in Denver was filled with her friends' music and laughter. I arrived with a carefully chosen gift, something meaningful and valuable. I still wanted her day to feel special. Then the mood changed completely. She stood in front of her friends, smiling confidently, and announced that her big brother was basically a walking ATM. She bragged that she could get whatever she wanted anytime because she received a huge monthly allowance. Right after that, she turned to me and demanded I buy her a house, buy her a car, and increase her allowance immediately, all in front of everyone. My parents stood right beside her and supported the demands without hesitation. The celebration turned into an open confrontation. I refused. The smiles disappeared. The air grew heavy. My fiancée Evelyn, who had come with me, looked shocked by what she was witnessing. That single refusal marked the beginning of a storm I never expected from my own family. The pressure, the schemes, and the betrayal that followed went far beyond anything I could have imagined. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back to that afternoon in the Denver backyard and show you exactly how it unfolded. The music kept playing, but the mood shifted the moment my sister opened her mouth in front of her friends. Leah stood near the long table covered with snacks, drinks, and a large birthday cake. A group of her classmates surrounded her, laughing and taking photos. She raised her red plastic cup and spoke loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. "You guys have no idea how lucky I am," she said with a big smile. "My brother is basically a walking money printer. I get this huge monthly allowance that covers everything. I can basically ask for whatever I want." Her friends cheered and clapped. Some of them looked at me with curious expressions. Leah's smile grew even wider as she enjoyed the attention. She clearly loved being the center of the moment. Then she turned directly toward me, still holding her cup high. "So, Marcus, since you're here and being generous today, I need you to do a few things for me. Buy me a house, nothing too fancy, just something decent in a good area. Get me a reliable car so I can drive to school without problems. And starting next month, increase my monthly allowance significantly. Make it actually worth something." The backyard suddenly felt quieter even though the music was still on. Several friends whispered to each other. Leah stood there confidently as if her request was completely reasonable. Walter, my dad, stepped forward and put his hand on Leah's shoulder. "She's turning 18, son. This is an important milestone. It's time for you to step up and show real support for your sister's future." "Gloria," my mom nodded immediately. "We've always taught you to put family first. Your sister deserves the same opportunities you had. Don't make this difficult, especially not in front of her friends." Aunt Alice, who had been standing nearby with a gift bag, joined in without hesitation. "Blood is thicker than water, Marcus. If you have the means, you should help without question. Leah is your only sister. This is what family does." The demands kept coming. Leah listed more details, the type of neighborhood she wanted for the house, the features she expected in the car, and exactly how much more the allowance should be each month. Her friends started nodding along, caught up in the excitement of the moment. Walter continued speaking in a firm tone. "We're not asking for the impossible. You've done well for yourself. Now it's time to share that success with your sister. She looks up to you." Gloria added emotional pressure. "Think about how this looks to everyone here. You don't want people thinking you're selfish on your sister's special day, do you?" Aunt Alice reinforced the point. "Other relatives are already talking. If you refuse now, it sends the wrong message about how much you care about family." I felt the weight of every eye on me. Evelyn stood quietly beside me, her hand lightly touching my arm. She hadn't spoken yet, but I could sense her discomfort with how fast the situation was escalating. Leah crossed her arms and stared at me, waiting. The confident expression on her face showed she truly believed I would agree right there in front of everyone. I took a deep breath and answered clearly. "No. I'm not buying you a house or a car, and I'm not increasing the allowance." The reaction was immediate. Leah's smile vanished completely. Her friends went silent. Walter's eyebrows shot up in surprise. Gloria's mouth tightened into a thin line. Aunt Alice shook her head as if I had said something outrageous. Leah took a step closer, her voice rising sharply. "Are you kidding me right now? After everything, you're really going to embarrass me like this on my birthday?" Walter's tone grew heavier. Marcus, this isn't just about money. This is about supporting your sister at a critical time in her life. Think about what kind of brother you're being. Gloria joined in quickly. We raised you to be better than this. Your success should benefit the whole family, especially your sister who is just starting out. The argument intensified. Leah kept pushing, reminding everyone again about the huge monthly allowance she received and how it proved I should do more. Walter listed reasons why the requests were fair. Gloria spoke about sacrifice and family duty. Aunt Alice mentioned how this would affect relationships with extended family. Evelyn finally spoke, her voice steady but firm. This isn't the right time or place for this discussion. Her words barely cut through the noise. Leah continued speaking louder, trying to save face in front of her friends. The celebration had completely derailed. What was supposed to be a happy birthday party had turned into an open confrontation in the Denver backyard. I held my ground and repeated my refusal calmly. The more I refused, the more frustrated the responses became. Leah's arrogance was on full display as she tried to pressure me publicly. My parents backed every point she made, their voices mixing together in the growing tension. By the time the sun started to set, the party atmosphere was gone. Groups of friends began leaving early. Leah shot me one last angry look before turning away. Walter and Gloria exchanged glances that made it clear this was far from over. The evening ended with a heavy silence that replaced the earlier laughter. I knew that a single refusal had changed everything between us. The next morning, my phone started vibrating non-stop before I even got out of bed. Messages flooded in from numbers I didn't recognize at first. Then came the calls from my parents. Walter sent a short text. "We need to talk about yesterday." Gloria followed with a longer message reminding me of my responsibilities as the older brother. Leah sent several texts in quick succession, each one angrier than the last, accusing me of ruining her birthday in front of her friends. I tried to focus on my morning routine, but the notifications kept coming. By mid-morning, social media posts began appearing. Aunt Alice had shared a long emotional update about family disappointment and children who forget where they came from. She tagged several relatives, turning what should have been a private matter into public discussion. Comments started rolling in, some defending Leah, others questioning my character without knowing the full story. Leah called me directly around noon. Her voice was tight with frustration. She demanded I apologize for embarrassing her and insisted I reconsider everything she asked for at the party. When I calmly refused again, she hung up and immediately sent more messages listing all the reasons why I owed her the house, the car, and the increased allowance. Walter called next. He used the calm but authoritative tone he always relied on when he expected compliance. He explained that parents have every right to guide their adult children toward proper family support. Gloria joined the call on speakerphone and added that my success was supposed to benefit the whole family, especially my sister who was just beginning her adult life. They took turns emphasizing how my refusal would negatively affect Leah's future opportunities. Aunt Alice called in the late afternoon. She skipped any pleasantries and launched straight into a lecture about family loyalty and sacrifice. She told me she had already spoken to several other relatives and that they were shocked by my behavior. Her words carried clear social pressure, suggesting that if I continued refusing, it would damage relationships far beyond just me and Leah. Throughout the day, the pressure built steadily from multiple directions. Each call and message used a different angle: guilt, obligation, public image, and future consequences. Leah sent screenshots of conversations with her friends, many of whom now viewed me negatively. My parents forwarded old family photos with captions about unity and support. Aunt Alice kept posting vague updates that painted me as the problem. Evelyn came over after work. She sat with me while I showed her the growing pile of notifications and messages. Unlike the others, she didn't urge me to give in. Instead, she helped me stay calm and suggested we start documenting everything carefully in case the situation continued to escalate. Her steady presence helped balance the constant stream of contact. I answered every new message and call with the same clear, firm refusal. I explained my boundaries without raising my voice or offering excuses. The more consistently I held my ground, the more intense the responses became. Leah accused me of suddenly becoming selfish. Walter warned that family ties could break over smaller issues than this. Gloria expressed deep disappointment, saying she never expected this kind of attitude from me. By early evening, the phone finally went quiet for a short while. Evelyn and I reviewed the day's events together. The coordinated nature of the contact was obvious. My parents and Aunt Alice appeared to be working together to keep the pressure high. Leah sent one more series of texts before dinner this time, including voice messages where she cried and claimed I was abandoning her. Walter followed up with another call, repeating many of the same points about family duty and sacrifice. Gloria texted separately asking how I could sleep at night knowing I had hurt my sister on her special day. Aunt Alice sent the final message of the day close to midnight. It carried a thinly veiled threat that if I didn't reconsider soon, the family might have no choice but to involve even more relatives and make the situation more public. I put my phone on silent and sat with Evelyn in the living room. The constant barrage of calls, texts, and posts showed no signs of slowing down. What had started as demands at a birthday party had already transformed into a sustained campaign of pressure from multiple family members. The pattern was clear. They were not going to accept my refusal easily. Instead, they planned to keep pushing harder until I changed my answer, or the situation became unbearable. 2 weeks later, I received a message from my mom asking me to come to Grandpa Harvey's house for a family discussion. I arrived in the early evening. The familiar living room felt different the moment I stepped inside. Walter and Gloria were already seated on the large couch. Aunt Alice sat in the armchair beside them, scrolling through her phone. Grandpa Harvey sat quietly in his usual recliner, observing without speaking at first. Walter spoke first, his voice measured but carrying clear authority. Marcus, we called this meeting because we need to address what happened at your sister's party. Your refusal wasn't just disappointing, it was disrespectful to the entire family. Gloria leaned forward, her hands clasped tightly. We raised you to understand family comes first. Leah is starting her adult life and she needs real support. Instead of helping her, you chose to embarrass her in front of her friends. That kind of selfishness hurts all of us. Aunt Alice jumped in immediately, her tone sharper than the others. I've already spoken to several relatives. They're shocked by how you behaved. Family is supposed to support each other, especially when one sibling has done well for himself. You're acting like you earned everything alone and owe nothing to the people who sacrificed for you. They began building the pressure layer by layer. Walter listed specific ways I could help Leah, the house in a good neighborhood, a reliable car for school, and a substantial increase in her monthly allowance. He explained why each request was reasonable given my financial situation. Gloria added emotional weight, talking about how Leah had always looked up to me and how my current attitude was breaking her trust and confidence. Aunt Alice focused on the social consequences. She mentioned how word had spread among extended family and how my refusal was making the whole family look bad. If you keep this up, people will see you as cold and uncaring. That reputation will follow you everywhere. Walter stood up and paced the room as the conversation grew more intense. If you continue refusing, you're basically turning your back on your own blood. What kind of brother leaves his sister struggling while he lives comfortably? We expected more from you, Marcus. Gloria's eyes showed clear disappointment. We didn't raise an only child. We raised 2 children who should look out for each other. Your father and I have always put family first. Now it's your turn to do the same. Aunt Alice leaned forward. Leah is your only sister. She deserves the same chances you had. If you don't help her now, you're failing as a brother and as a son. The accusations came faster and stronger. They called me ungrateful for the opportunities they had given me growing up. They suggested I was being overly protective of my own future at the expense of the family. Walter even hinted that continued resistance could mean they would have to reconsider how they treated me going forward. At one point, Gloria's voice cracked slightly. How can you sleep at night knowing you're hurting your sister like this? She cried for hours after the party because of you. Aunt Alice added more fuel. Other relatives are already asking questions. If this continues, we may have no choice but to tell them the truth about how selfish you're being. Grandpa Harvey had remained mostly silent, listening carefully to every word. His face stayed calm, but I noticed his eyebrows furrowing as the pressure intensified. He finally spoke, his voice low and steady. Let the boy speak. We've heard enough from the rest of you. I took the opportunity and responded calmly but firmly. I explained that I had always been willing to help when it was reasonable, but the demands made at the party crossed a clear line. I stated my boundaries plainly. I would not buy property or a vehicle for Leah, and I would not increase financial support beyond what I already provided. I reminded them that Leah was now an adult and needed to start building her own path. My calm refusal only seemed to fuel their frustration. Walter raised his voice for the first time. You're being stubborn and selfish. This isn't how family works. Gloria shook her head repeatedly, saying she never thought she would see the day her son put himself before everyone else. Aunt Alice declared that if I didn't change my mind soon, the family might have no choice but to distance themselves from me. The meeting stretched on for nearly 2 hours. They repeated variations of the same arguments each time, adding more emotional weight, guilt, or social pressure. Walter threatened that relationships could be permanently damaged. Gloria spoke about long-term regret. Aunt Alice kept bringing up how other relatives would view the situation. Grandpa Harvey observed everything without taking sides openly, but his silence spoke volumes. He seemed increasingly uncomfortable with the aggressive way they were trying to force my decision. When I finally left the house that evening, the air felt thick with unresolved tension. Walter gave me one last warning at the door. Think very carefully, Marcus. Family doesn't wait forever. I drove home knowing the pressure had not decreased. It had only become more organized and intense. A few days after that tense meeting at Grandpa Harvey's house, I returned home from work to find my front door slightly ajar. The lock had clearly been forced. The wooden frame around the door showed fresh scratches and slight splintering where someone had used a tool to pry it open. My pulse quickened as I pushed the door open carefully, my keys still in my hand. The living room appeared mostly normal at first glance, but small details immediately felt wrong. The desk drawers that I always kept neatly closed were left partially open. Papers that I had organized the night before were now scattered across the floor in a careless way. A few cushions on the couch were slightly out of place. I moved quickly through the house, checking each room with growing unease. In the bedroom, the closet door stood wide open. My laptop was missing from its usual spot on the nightstand charger. I searched every shelf, every drawer, and even under the bed, but it was gone. The old family watch, the only valuable heirloom I kept at home, a silver pocket watch passed down from my mother's father, had also disappeared from its small velvet box in the top drawer. Nothing else seemed taken. The television, gaming console, and other electronics were still there. It was obvious the intruders had come with a specific purpose. I stood in the middle of the room for a moment, trying to process what had happened. The violation felt deeply personal. Someone had entered my private space, gone through my belongings, and taken items that mattered to me. I immediately called Evelyn. My voice was tighter than I intended when I told her what I had found. She said she was leaving work right away and would be there in 20 minutes. While waiting for her, I walked through the house again, this time more slowly. In the kitchen, sitting openly on the counter next to the sink where I would definitely see it, was a single bright red plastic cup, exactly the same kind Leah had been holding and drinking from at her birthday party. Inside the cup was a small folded piece of paper. I used a pen to open it without touching it directly. The handwritten note was short and direct. Think about it. The message hit like a slap. It was not subtle, it was a deliberate taunt, a clear warning that this break-in was connected to the ongoing family conflict. The red cup was the same color and style from the party left there intentionally, so I would make the connection immediately. Evelyn arrived and took one look at the scene. Her face tightened with concern and anger. She suggested we stop touching anything else and call the police immediately. While we waited for the officers to arrive, we carefully documented everything with our phones, photos of the forced door, the scattered papers, the empty spots where the laptop and watch had been, and especially the red cup with the note. Evelyn made sure to take close-up shots of the handwriting and the cup itself. The police officers arrived about 30 minutes later. They took detailed statements dusted for fingerprints on the door handle, the kitchen counter, and the drawers. They noted the forced entry and the missing items. I mentioned the recent family tension and the meeting at Grandpa Harvey's house, but I stopped short of making direct accusations. The officers were professional but honest. Without security cameras or clear fingerprints, the chances of identifying the intruder quickly were low. They promised to file the report and follow up if anything new appeared. After the police left, the house felt even more violated. Evelyn and I sat at the kitchen table, the red cup still sitting there like a mocking reminder. She spoke quietly but firmly. This wasn't a random burglary. They knew exactly what to take and where to leave that message. The timing is too perfect right after the family meeting where they tried to pressure you so hard. I nodded, feeling a heavy mix of anger, disappointment, and disbelief. The fact that someone from my own family or someone acting on their behalf would break into my home and steal from me was difficult to accept. The laptop contained sensitive work files and old financial records. The watch carried sentimental value that could never be replaced. Both items felt like deliberate choices meant to hurt me personally. We spent the next several hours securing the house properly. I called a locksmith and had all the locks changed that same night. Evelyn helped me install a basic security camera at the front door and another one facing the backyard. We created a detailed inventory list of everything missing, including serial numbers where possible, and noted the exact time I had last seen each item. Evelyn also suggested we start a shared digital folder to keep all evidence organized, photos, police report timestamps, everything. As the evening wore on, the full weight of the situation settled in. This break-in wasn't just theft, it was a calculated escalation. The red cup and note were meant to intimidate me, to show me that they were willing to cross legal lines to force me to give in to their demands. The timing only a few days after the aggressive family meeting made the connection undeniable. I barely slept that night. Every small sound, the creak of the house settling, a car passing outside, made me tense. The image of that red cup sitting on my kitchen counter kept replaying in my mind. Evelyn stayed over, sleeping on the couch so I wouldn't be alone. Her presence helped, but the violation still felt raw. The next morning, we reviewed all the photos in the police report again. Evelyn pointed out small details I had missed the night before, such as the way the drawers had been searched but only certain items taken. We discussed possible next steps carefully. The break-in had pushed the conflict into a much more serious territory, one that involved actual criminal activity. I knew at that moment that I could no longer treat this as a simple family disagreement that would blow over. The line had been crossed in a way that demanded a stronger, more formal response. The red cup and the note had made their intentions crystal clear. That same evening, after discovering the break-in, I sat down at my kitchen table and opened my banking app with a heavy feeling in my chest. The screen showed numbers that made my stomach drop instantly. Several large withdrawals had been processed from my old savings account, the one I had opened back in high school and kept strictly separate for emergencies. The balance, which should have been healthy, was now almost zero. I scrolled through the transaction history slowly, my eyes narrowing as I saw multiple transfers labeled as authorized payments that I had never approved. The total amount taken exceeded $13,400. Further down the list, I noticed suspicious activity on my car title loan records. Someone had used my personal information to open a new loan against a vehicle I no longer owned. The paperwork attached to the transaction showed Leah's signature on several key documents. The pieces clicked together rapidly. The same person who had broken into my house and taken my laptop and the family watch had also been quietly draining my accounts for weeks. Evelyn sat right beside me, her own laptop open next to mine. She helped me export every single statement and take clear screenshots of the unauthorized transactions. We cross-checked the dates carefully and noticed the withdrawals had started shortly after Leah's birthday party. They had increased significantly in both frequency and amount right after the family meeting at Grandpa Harvey's house. Evelyn pointed out the clear pattern in the timing that lined up perfectly with the phone calls, texts, and social media pressure we had received. We spent the next several hours digging deeper into old text conversations. Evelyn carefully saved every message where Leah had demanded more money or complained about not having enough. She also located records from the notary service that had processed some of the loan documents. The evidence was mounting fast and becoming harder to deny. One particular chain of texts showed Leah bragging to a friend about having easy access to family resources while mentioning my name directly. The more we examined the records, the clearer and more disturbing the picture became. This was not a one-time mistake or impulsive decision. It was a calculated, systematic series of actions designed to take whatever they wanted, without my knowledge or permission. Evelyn remained calm and methodical throughout, organizing everything into clearly labeled folders and suggesting we consult a lawyer first thing in the morning. Her steady support helped me stay focused instead of giving in completely to the anger that was building inside me. I stared at the final total again, $13,427. That money represented years of careful saving, overtime work, and disciplined budgeting. Seeing it gone because of my own family left a bitter, hollow feeling. Evelyn suggested we also document how this level of betrayal was affecting my mental state and trust in people noting specific dates and incidents for the official record. By midnight, we had compiled a very solid evidence file. It included all the bank statements, suspicious transaction records, text message chains, the police report from the break-in, and high-resolution photos of the red cup with the note. Evelyn made multiple backups on a secure external drive and printed physical copies as well. She reminded me that we needed to act quickly but smartly to protect what remained of my finances and build the strongest possible case. The next morning, I contacted a lawyer named Alan who specialized in family financial disputes and civil recovery cases. He reviewed the materials I sent over and confirmed within hours that we had strong grounds for both civil recovery of the funds and potential criminal charges. He explained the full process of filing a lawsuit, how the combination of unauthorized access, forged signatures, and the physical break-in would significantly strengthen our position in court. Throughout that day, even more details continued to emerge. Evelyn discovered several smaller transfers I had missed the night before. Each new piece of information added another layer of weight to the betrayal. I realized Leah had not acted completely alone. The signature's timing and knowledge of my personal financial details strongly suggested input and assistance from others who knew me well. By evening, the decision felt final and irreversible. I instructed the lawyer to begin preparing all the necessary paperwork for the civil suit. The theft of my money, combined with the physical invasion of my home, had crossed every possible boundary I had ever set. Evelyn stayed late again that night, helping me review the draft documents line by line before we sent them off to the lawyer. As I lay in bed much later, the reality of the situation settled over me heavily. What had started as arrogant and public demands at my sister's 18th birthday party had grown into deliberate, calculated financial exploitation and a direct violation of my home. The evidence we had gathered left very little room for doubt about who was responsible and how far they were willing to go. The betrayal felt complete. The trust I once had in my family had been shattered beyond repair. With the lawyer now involved and the case moving forward, I understood that the coming weeks would be difficult, stressful, and emotionally draining. But staying silent and allowing the exploitation to continue was no longer an option I could live with. 3 weeks later, I sat in a quiet courtroom waiting for the hearing to begin. The room felt smaller and more formal than I had imagined. Grandpa Harvey arrived early and took a seat on my side of the aisle, giving me a small supportive nod but saying little. Walter, Gloria, and Aunt Alice sat together on the opposite side, their faces tight with tension. Leah entered last, keeping her eyes down and avoiding eye contact with anyone in the room. My lawyer presented the evidence methodically and professionally. Bank records clearly showed the unauthorized withdrawals totaling more than $13,000. Loan documents proved Leah had used my personal information to secure financing without my consent. Photos from the break-in, including the forced door and the red cup with the note, were entered as supporting exhibits. Text message chains revealed a clear pattern of demands and coordination between family members. The judge reviewed everything carefully as the case unfolded. When it was time for testimony, Grandpa Harvey stood and spoke in a calm, steady voice. He described the family meeting at his house and how the pressure had quickly turned aggressive and unreasonable. He admitted he had stayed mostly silent at first, hoping the situation would calm down, but he could no longer support actions that involved breaking into someone's home and stealing money. His words carried significant weight because he had always been one of the most respected members of the family. Leah's side attempted to argue that the money was simply family support and that I had always helped in the past. The judge quickly pointed out the complete lack of any written agreement or my explicit consent. The evidence of forged signatures, unauthorized access to accounts, and the physical break-in was overwhelming and difficult to dispute. Walter tried to speak about family obligations and long-term support, but the judge interrupted him, stating firmly that this was a matter of law, not emotion or family tradition. Gloria sat silently, her hands clenched in her lap. Aunt Alice shifted uncomfortably in her seat as more evidence was presented. The ruling came faster than I expected. The judge found in my favor on all counts. Leah was ordered to repay the full amount plus legal fees and court costs. The unauthorized loans were declared invalid, and the record of the case would remain public. Walter and Gloria faced indirect but serious consequences through the official documentation of the proceedings. The courtroom emptied quietly, but the atmosphere remained heavy with unresolved emotions. 6 months passed. The consequences for my family became clear and unavoidable. Leah's credit score had been destroyed by the fraudulent loans and unpaid debts. She could no longer qualify for student loans or any reasonable financing to continue her education. Walter and Gloria were forced to cover several large payments to avoid further legal complications, which put significant strain on their own finances and retirement savings. Many relatives who had initially supported them began slowly distancing themselves after learning the full details of the case through the public record. I had one final official interaction with the family during the resolution process. In a recorded statement required for the case closure, I revealed the truth I had kept private for years. The huge monthly allowance that Leah had bragged about at her birthday party, the one she claimed made me her personal ATM, had actually come from me. I had been sending that money quietly for a long time so she could focus on school and live comfortably like her friends without ever asking for recognition or thanks. The revelation landed heavily in the official record. Leah looked visibly stunned when she heard it. Walter and Gloria shifted uncomfortably in their seats. They had encouraged her demands and participated in the pressure while unknowingly benefiting from the financial support I had provided without their knowledge. That recorded statement was the last time I communicated with any of them. I changed my phone number the following week. I blocked every family member across all social media platforms and email accounts. I kept in regular but limited contact only with Grandpa Harvey, who had chosen to remain honest and neutral throughout the entire ordeal. Evelyn and I focused on moving forward with our own plans. We began looking at new housing options and quietly started building a life together without the constant shadow of family expectations and drama. Looking back at everything that happened, the entire situation taught me a hard but necessary lesson about boundaries and self respect. Blood relation does not automatically give anyone the right to take advantage of your success, cross your personal boundaries, or treat you as an unlimited source of money. Sometimes the healthiest and most responsible choice is to protect your peace by walking away completely, even when it feels painful in the moment. Family should lift you up, support you, and respect you, not drain you emotionally or financially. When they refuse to respect clear lines and instead choose manipulation, guilt, and even illegal actions, stepping away is not failure or selfishness. It is self preservation and self respect. I no longer carry anger toward them, but I also no longer carry any obligation. The chapter is closed. My life now belongs to me, Evelyn, and the future we are building together, free from the weight of toxic expectations.